Let's go to Jenny from the block in Saratoga Springs. What's up, Jenny?
Hi, Dr. D.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
We are rocking it on, man. What's up?
So I guess the short of it is my grandparents live next door, and they moved somebody into their backyard who, like in a camper in their backyard, who has an addiction problem. And I need help figuring out how to protect my family in that whole situation, because I don't have a problem with people who have addictions. Obviously, like that's a whole other
Jenny,
thing,
why do you hate America? I'm just kidding. I'm piling onto your own shame that take that off. Clearly you've identified a safety issue. Okay.
Yes,
that doesn't mean that you hate people that are struggling with addiction. That means that you're trying to keep your family safe.
Yes.
So what about the situation makes you feel unsafe?
Well, this person stabbed someone.
That's it?
And now he's living in my backyard. So.
Oh, there's that. Jeez, talk about overly sensitive, Jenny. So what's the addiction?
Heroin.
Gosh. So, I have been accused of being overly compassionate, and I've been accused of being full of leftist propaganda because my default setting is to love people and to welcome them into my house rather than kick them out.
I totally get that.
And
100%.
I would not be okay if a violent heroin addict moved into my grandparents' house next door to me in a camper.
Yeah.
I got little kids. Do y'all have kids?
Exactly where I'm at. I have a 3-year-old, yes. Okay.
So what is the connection between your grandparents and this backyard resident?
He is the grandchild of their friends. And his grandparents passed away. So I think that they feel like they owe it to his grandparents to like take care of him.
Okay. All right. So this situation is one of those most of us will not have stabbing heroin addicts living next door to us, particularly in our grandparents' backyard in a camper. But this is one of those outside the bell curve situations that we all deal with, especially when it comes to family. And that is setting up boundaries that are pretty firm. And so I think it's you and your husband sitting down, and is Dad in the picture? I just assumed that. I shouldn't do that. Okay, Dad's in the picture. It's y'all sitting down and saying, where are our boundaries here? And boundaries may be, as long as that person is living next door, us and our kids will not go to my grandparents' house. We refuse to go over there. If this person is somebody you can have a conversation with, it might be saying, hey, we understand that you're living here for a season in my grandparents' backyard. It's not okay for you to come over to our house. Or maybe you wait until that person does try to come over to your house. Say, hey, this is private property. We'd prefer if you don't come onto our house. Is that conversation awkward? Absolutely. Is it hard and ugly and messy? Absolutely. Might your grandparents revolt and say, well, then forget you, and I'm going to leave our house and all my money to this guy in the back? Maybe. But it comes down to a safety conversation that you and your husband feel safe. You could also get together with your husband and say, hey, we're going to go knock on this person's door and invite them out to coffee around our fire pit and ask them what's been going on in their life. And if there's y'all can decide what that is, right? But if y'all get on the same page, and then there's the hard part, communicating that to your grandparents with respect and dignity, not just lobbing grenades, right? Have you talked to them?
Yes, I went over there and I said, my grandfather is like 90% deaf in one ear and he can't hear out of the other one. So he was watching the race with his headset on, so he couldn't hear me. And I was talking to my grandmother, which is an easier conversation.
Yes.
And so I was like, hey, Grandma, like, do we have a timeline on how long this guy is going to be living out back? And she was like, no, I don't really think he does either. And I was like, oh, that's, like, what are we going to do about that if that turns into a problem?
Well, it turns.
And she was like,
it will turn into forever.
Yeah, that's what I'm afraid of. And she said, that's the thing about, because we just bought my parents' house. That was my parents' house, and we just bought it.
Okay.
And so she said, that's the thing about home ownership. You have to learn to live with your neighbors. And I just bit my tongue on
Jenny,
that one.
That's a great grandma line right there. That's like Grandma Burn right there. That's awesome. Oh, dude, that's awesome. Good job for your grandma. So here's grandma just put her boundary down. This person's living here, and you need to suck it up and get over it. That's not what you wanted to hear, but that's what you got. And so she actually is right. Y'all get to decide what happens next. Are we going to sell mom and dad's house at full market value and head out because we don't want our kids living here? Are we going to wait until there's a problem? Are we going to address it head on? Y'all get to decide what comes next. Just recognize that what comes next is going to be uncomfortable. There's not really a way around that. And just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean it's wrong.
Okay.
Right? If I'm in your situation and you've already had the conversation with grandma, probably what I would do is be very proactive about reaching out. I would go meet the person.
To the guy?
Yes. The way you just said it, unless this person is scary, right? Or completely...
I mean, he's just like not all there. So
okay.
I don't even know how that conversation would even go. Like, I'm knocking on a camper in my backyard, like, hey.
Like that, but again...
You want a beer?
I mean, yeah. That's probably what I would do, quite honestly. But here's another thing you might try, is writing your grandparents a letter, because your granddad can read that. He might not hear it, but he can read it. And just say, hey, I love you. I am nervous as your granddaughter living next door to somebody who has a violent history and who is making me and our little one feel unsafe. So here's what we're going to do until then. Y'all are welcome to come to our house if you'd like to, but we just don't feel safe right now. And if you're going to choose to have this person live in your backyard over us, that's great. That's your home. And write it down, because two things happen when you write something down like that. Number one, it helps you have to clarify it. Here's what my actual problem is. And we tend to be like, oh, that guy's a conservative. I ain't talking to that. Well, what is the actual problem with the political, right? What are the things that are driving you? It makes you identify it. And then the second thing is it gives the reader an opportunity to read it, have their body respond to it. They're going to get angry. They're going to get self-righteous and whatever. And they can go back to it. And then they can go back to it. And then go back to it. And then they can be like, actually, we're choosing this over this. And at least we can have a conversation about it, right? So that would be my recommendation. Write a letter to your grandparents and then move on. The more you pull into your driveway and look over the fence and get raged out and hate and all that, you are going to choose to make your life miserable. And the more you drive and look and you're always scanning, your child is going to pick up on that. That 3-year-old's going to pick up on that. And they're going to think there's something scary and unsafe about mom and about our house. And you're just going to create a cascade there. So, yeah, you're in a messy situation. I'm sorry. It's hard. But your grandma's right. Your grandma's right. I guess they're allowed to let somebody live in their backyard with a camper, depending on your deed restrictions or wherever y'all live. And y'all have to now make some choices about what y'all's life is going to look like or what life's going to look like moving forward. Hate that y'all got put in that situation. Man, I hate that their compassion may end up costing them their house. It's going to be hard to evict somebody down the road. All those things sounds like a mess. And to be clear, have some good boundaries. And holler back if something goes sideways. I'd love to hear about it.